Carl Rogers is the father of person-centered psychology, a pioneer who dared to challenge the status quo. His groundbreaking work in humanistic psychology not only redefined the therapist-client relationship, but also empowered individuals to take control of their own healing. As we delve into his extraordinary life, get ready to witness the transformative power of empathy and compassion that changed the face of psychology forever. As we explore the formative years of Carl Rogers, it's fascinating to note how his childhood experiences laid the groundwork for his future work in person-centered psychology. Born on January 8, 1902 in Oak Park, Illinois, Rogers grew up in a conservative Christian household with a strong emphasis on hard work and self-reliance. His parents, Walter and Julia Rogers, were both devout Christians who valued education and encouraged their children to develop a strong sense of responsibility. This upbringing would later influence Rogers' views on the importance of personal autonomy and self-actualization. Rogers' early life was marked by a sense of isolation and loneliness, which he attributed to his family's strict rules and expectations. He was the fourth of 6 children, and his parents' emphasis on individual responsibility often led to feelings of disconnection from his siblings. This sense of disconnection would later become a driving force behind Rogers' work in developing a more empathetic and client-centered approach to therapy. As Rogers navigated his educational journey, he began to develop a strong interest in psychology. He attended the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he studied agriculture before switching to psychology. It was during this time that he was introduced to the works of John Dewey, whose emphasis on experiential learning and humanistic values would greatly influence Rogers' future work. After completing his undergraduate degree, Rogers went on to attend the Union Theological Seminary in New York City, where he began to explore the intersection of psychology and theology. Rogers' time at the seminary was marked by a growing sense of disillusionment with traditional religious practices. He began to question the rigid dogma and authoritarian structures that seemed to stifle personal growth and autonomy. This dissatisfaction would eventually lead him to pursue a career in psychology, where he could focus on promoting humanistic values and empowering individuals to take control of their own lives. As Rogers delved deeper into the world of psychology, he was drawn to the work of Otto Rank, a psychoanalyst who emphasized the importance of human relationships and emotional connection. Rogers' exposure to Rank's ideas would later influence his development of person-centered therapy, which prioritizes empathy, genuineness, and unconditional positive regard in the therapeutic relationship. One of the most significant events in Rogers' educational journey was his time at Columbia University, where he earned his doctorate in psychology. It was during this period that he began to develop his theory of person-centered psychology, which would eventually become a cornerstone of humanistic psychology. Rogers' work at Columbia was marked by a sense of intellectual curiosity and a desire to challenge traditional psychotherapeutic approaches. However, it was his exposure to the ideas of Otto Rank that had a profound impact on his development as a therapist. Rank's emphasis on the importance of human relationships and emotional connection resonated deeply with Rogers, who was beginning to formulate his own theories about the therapeutic relationship. He was particularly drawn to the work of William Hurd Kilpatrick, a philosopher and educator who emphasized the importance of experiential learning and student-centered education. Rogers saw parallels between Kilpatrick's ideas and his own emerging theories about the therapeutic relationship, and he began to develop a vision for a more empathetic and client-centered approach to therapy. One of the key experiences that shaped Rogers' approach was his work with troubled children at the Rochester Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. Here, he encountered young people who had been failed by traditional therapeutic approaches, and he began to realize that the conventional methods of the time were often more focused on controlling behavior than on understanding the underlying causes of distress. Rogers' work with these children taught him the importance of empathy, genuineness, and unconditional positive regard in building trust and fostering personal growth. As Rogers continued to develop his theories, he was influenced by a wide range of thinkers, from philosophers like Martin Buber to psychologists like Gordon Allport. He was particularly drawn to the concept of the I-thou relationship, which Buber described as a deep and reciprocal connection between two individuals. Rogers saw this idea as central to his own vision for therapy, where the therapist and client engage in a collaborative and empathetic relationship that fosters personal growth and self-actualization. Rogers's relationships with his contemporaries were complex and multifaceted. He was part of a circle of influential psychologists that included Abraham Maslow, Rollo May, and Viktor Frankl, all of whom shared his commitment to humanistic psychology. Together, they challenged the dominant psychoanalytic approaches of the time, arguing for a more holistic and empathetic understanding of human behavior. While Rogers's ideas were not without controversy, he was widely respected by his peers for his intellectual curiosity, his compassion, and his unwavering commitment to the well-being of his clients. One of the most significant events in Rogers's career was his publication of The Concept of the Self in 1959. This seminal paper outlined his theory of the self and its relationship to personal growth and self-actualization. Rogers argued that the self is a complex and dynamic system shaped by a combination of genetic, environmental, and social factors. He also introduced the concept of the ideal self, which refers to the person's aspirations and goals for themselves, and the real self, which refers to their actual experiences and feelings. Rogers's ideas about the self were revolutionary for their time, as they challenged traditional notions of identity and personality. His emphasis on the importance of self-actualization, creativity, and personal growth also resonated with a wider cultural movement that was seeking to challenge conventional norms and values. As Rogers continued to develop his theories, he remained committed to the idea that therapy should be a collaborative and empathetic process, one that fosters personal growth, creativity, and self-awareness. The 1960s were a time of great social change and upheaval, and Rogers's ideas about humanistic psychology resonated with many who were seeking a more compassionate and empathetic approach to understanding human behavior. His work at the University of Wisconsin, where he established a center for the study of psychotherapy, attracted a wide range of scholars and practitioners who shared his commitment to humanistic values. Here, Rogers continued to develop his theories, experimenting with new approaches to therapy and pushing the boundaries of what was possible in the therapeutic relationship. As Rogers's reputation grew, so did the criticism of his approach. Some argued that his emphasis on empathy and unconditional positive regard was too permissive, allowing clients to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Others criticized his rejection of traditional psychoanalytic approaches, arguing that he was throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Despite these criticisms, Rogers remained committed to his vision of a more compassionate and empathetic approach to therapy, one that prioritized the well-being and self-actualization of the client above all else. One notable example is his development of the person-centered approach, which emphasized the importance of empathy, genuineness, and unconditional positive regard in the therapeutic relationship. This approach was heavily influenced by his work with clients who had been failed by traditional therapeutic methods, and he began to realize that the conventional approaches of the time were often more focused on controlling behavior than on understanding the underlying causes of distress. Rogers's relationships with his contemporaries, including Abraham Maslow and Rollo May, were also instrumental in shaping his ideas. These thinkers shared his commitment to humanistic psychology and challenged the dominant psychoanalytic approaches of the time, arguing for a more holistic and empathetic understanding of human behavior. Together, they formed a community of scholars who supported and critiqued each other's work, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in the field of psychology. One significant research study that showcases Rogers's person-centered approach is his work with schizophrenic patients at the University of Wisconsin. In this study, Rogers and his team used a non-directive, empathetic approach to therapy, focusing on creating a safe and supportive environment for clients to explore their thoughts and feelings. The results were striking, with many patients showing significant improvement in their symptoms and overall well-being. This study helped to establish the efficacy of Rogers's person-centered approach and paved the way for further research into the importance of empathy and genuineness in therapy. His ideas about the importance of self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-expression helped to inspire a generation of psychologists, educators, and social workers who were committed to creating a more compassionate and empathetic society. However, Rogers's approach was not without its critics. His emphasis on empathy, genuineness, and unconditional positive regard helped to create a new paradigm for therapy, one that focused on the client's inherent worth and dignity rather than their pathology or dysfunction. This shift in perspective had far-reaching implications for the field of psychology, and Rogers's work continues to inspire and influence therapists, educators, and social workers to this day. Rogers's own personal struggles and challenges also played a significant role in shaping his theoretical contributions. His experiences with anxiety and self-doubt, for example, helped him to develop a deeper understanding of the importance of self-acceptance and self-compassion in the therapeutic process. His willingness to be vulnerable and open about his own struggles also helped to create a sense of safety and trust with his clients, allowing them to explore their own thoughts and feelings in a deeper and more meaningful way. His pioneering work in person-centered therapy has inspired generations of therapists, educators, and social workers, shaping the way we understand and approach mental health. As Rogers so eloquently put it, the very process of living is a process of learning, and his own life serves as a testament to the transformative power of self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-expression. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.